What is Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin a currency? Is Bitcoin a store of value? Is Bitcoin a payment network? Or is Bitcoin an asset class? Fortunately, it is easier to define what Bitcoin actually is. And it's not that big golden coin with the capital B on it that everybody has in their thumbnail like this. Actually, Bitcoin is just software. Easily said, Bitcoin is just a digital phenomenon. It is just a set of protocols and processes. And out of all the tried attempts at making a digital currency, Bitcoin turned out to be the most successful. And yes, the internet is riddled with a lot of altcoins, or some people call them coins. Bitcoin has proven itself over the years, and a lot of investors have made millions from it. This video is an introduction to the cryptocurrency space, but we will be targeting Bitcoin. So I have gathered some data and I'm trying to learn this space. But hopefully, with all the knowledge that I acquired all jumbled up together, I hope that I can reciprocate this knowledge to you guys so that we can all learn together about this cryptocurrency space. But before we even start the video, or before we even go any further, I must say that this video is not financial advice. I am just here to share my investment journey and hopefully entertain you guys and maybe teach you a couple of things about the space. Alright, so to understand Bitcoin, we have to know how it works. So that's our first step. How does Bitcoin work? So as stated in the intro, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. But what makes it different from all the cryptocurrencies that are on the market? Well, in my research, I have to leave that to the first mover advantage. They were one of the first in the space to get this done successfully, so they have the advantage of trust and longevity. But let's dissect this statement a little more, because I said Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. But what is a cryptocurrency? Well, cryptocurrency is basically a digital currency in which transactions are verified and records are maintained by a decentralized system using cryptography. So even after saying all of that, it just sounds like a bunch of SEO words or basically a bunch of catchphrases. Well, let's just dissect it a little further. So from our knowledge of currencies, that's basically a unit of agreed exchange. So like how we have money, but back in the days they had gold, some people had shilling, some form of metal, or maybe even some form of cloth. People usually use those items to associate with an agreed value of exchange. But even though this currency is an agreed value, it has to meet certain criteria, some of which are it has to be durable, it has to be easily stored, it cannot decay, it must be easily transported and hard to replicate. So simply put, Bitcoin is just a currency that we agree that holds value. However, instead of being something physical or tangible, it's digital. So we got the currency part down. So let's move on to the other part of the equation. Let's talk about how they verify and how they also record transactions, aka a ledger. This ledger basically holds every transaction Bitcoin has ever made from its inception, which was I think around 2009. Think of the ledger as a data bank, an Excel sheet. It has every single transaction noted with a time, date, everything basically around that transaction. It has it on an Excel sheet, the ledger as they call it. Scenario time. Think about you and your friends going to dinner, and when the bill comes, instead of splitting and going through all that headache, you guys just write down all of the amounts that you would pay. So John pays 20, Harry pays 15, Styles pays 16, I just can't make up any names right now, and Kim pays $5. Think about it this way. Instead of trying to remember what everybody owes, then on that piece of paper, the Excel sheet will have all all the information of everything that has been spent so you don't leave it to memory. Alright, so now imagine that ledger that the whole world decides to use it and trust that ledger. That is basically what Bitcoin is trying to accomplish. So now that we know that each transaction is recorded, how can we make sure that the person who is inputting the data is trustworthy and is actually doing their job honestly, actually putting in true data? After all, if one person does the job, then this is basically a centralized network. But remember that Bitcoin is decentralized. This is where decentralization comes into play. So coming back to the ledger or that spreadsheet, there won't be one person that inputs all the data. There has to be a network of people, and that is how the Bitcoin network operates. You have a bunch of people who have copies of this ledger, and they make sure that the information that's going on the ledger is true, and these people are called the miners. No one owns this ledger, therefore it reduces the chance of mismanagement and manipulation. And if you're wondering how they monitor this ledger or monitor this spreadsheet to make sure that all information is true, they use specialized software. Going even further, you might ask yourself these questions. Why is the Bitcoin system so hard to hack? How can these transactions be trusted? And how can we keep transactions true but private? And simply put, this is where the technology of cryptography comes into play. So I'm sure most of you guys use WhatsApp, and whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, it says that WhatsApp is encrypting these messages. So what that basically means is that the sender, Demetress Fairman, sends "Hey, what's up?" to his friend. However, WhatsApp doesn't see that "Hey, what's up?" because that message is encrypted and only the sender and the user are privy to the message being sent. That's why it's called end-to-end encryption, or otherwise cryptography. So to give a proper definition, cryptography is just a method of protecting information and communication through the use of code, so that only for those whom the information is intended for will be able to read it. This solves the problem of trust because the information is encrypted. But if you want to go further and understand cryptography, they use a principle, a working principle called hashing. And this is what does all the encryption. And the encryption rate that they go by is called SHA-256, SHA-256. So this is the encryption method that they use, or the hashing method. So whatever the sender sends, Demetress Fairman sends $50. When it goes through the hashing, it comes out as a sequence of code. But what makes this even better is that if somebody tries to see what those sequence of code mean, they can't reverse it and get what it meant. Once it is hashed, it cannot be transformed back into its original state. Therefore, hacking is virtually impossible. And to make sure that you even have another step of security is that whenever you send off a transaction, it is sent with your customized Bitcoin key that only you are privy to have. So it's basically your digital signature on that transaction to show that, yo, it is coming from me. It's coming from Mr. Demetress. And this is why Bitcoin has miners. And the reason I get the name miners is not because they are really going outside and digging up the earth to find Bitcoin. They just use that term because Bitcoin is synonymous to currency, and back in the day when they used to dig up gold out of the ground, they just use that terminology to call them miners. But miners are basically the people who operate the Bitcoin network with their souped up computers to solve the algorithms or to solve the cryptography to make sure that your transaction is true. And this is how the miners get paid, because once their souped up computers solve some of those equations, then they get paid by Bitcoin. And yes, the concepts are hard and it's not easy to teach or relay that message to you guys. So if you want to go even further, you can just always watch a YouTube video on cryptography, cryptocurrency, to just get your mind deep into the space and understand or build a foundation. So section 2 of understanding what is Bitcoin is to understand how Bitcoin gets its value. But first we have to talk about the fiat currency. And the fiat currency is the paper money that we use right now to do all our transactions. So the fiat currency is backed by the government authorities, thus for some reason giving it our trust. This is where Bitcoin differs in the fact that Bitcoin is not backed or has any backing at all to show its value. On the other hand, Bitcoin does have some similarities to the fiat currency in the sense that it is divisible, and when I say divisible, it can be broken down into units called satoshis. But the main source of Bitcoin's value is not just its technology that is based on the blockchain, but however its supply and demand. Bitcoin is limited to a quantity of 21 million, meaning that miners will only mine an amount of 21 million bitcoins. It now gonna go over 21 million and now go less than 21 million. That's it. Once you reach 21 million, you can't mine anymore. Bitcoin's value is a function of its scarcity. As Bitcoin is mined and the amount of it gets scarce, then the demand grows, which in turn grows the price. If Bitcoin gains scale and captures 15% of the global market currency, assuming all 21 million Bitcoins are mined and in circulation, the total price for Bitcoin would be, and get this, $514,000 US. Section 3 would be, why would I even invest in Bitcoin? So get this, Bitcoin is currently around $58,000. So based on the possibility that Bitcoin gains scale and captures 15% of the global currency market, then its price would be around $514,000 US. Bitcoin has a major upside in its growth potential. That is one of the major reasons that I would invest, because I can see a clear-cut growth. The only thing limiting us is time. My second point for investing in Bitcoin is FOMO, fear of missing out. I am tired of seeing Bitcoin millionaires and people making huge profits on Bitcoin, and then me just sit down with my hand on my lap and only say, if we did know. I don't want to miss out on Bitcoin when it reaches another peak. I want to get some of the profits. I want to be one of the person that is one of the first movers who gets to see Bitcoin reaches to its point, to its peak, and say, yo, I invested in that technology. I want to be one of those persons who thinks that Bitcoin will change the currency phenomenon in this world, and I want to be a part of that. I don't want to miss out on this technology. And by speaking about Bitcoin's technology, I can't help but not speak about its utility. And in cryptocurrency, utility is just the ability of that currency. What is its features? And Bitcoin's utility is focused around transaction, and more so retail for the everyday spending. That is what Bitcoin hopes to accomplish. It's not doing its job 100% because most people are just using it to store value. But take for example El Salvador, who started to use it as legal tender around June 9, 2021. Look at that. One day before my birthday. It's a sign I should invest more money in Bitcoin. But to sum up the utility aspect, more countries are going to adopt Bitcoin as their currency. So I believe in their utility, which is their feature. I believe that it can be great. So why not invest? And fourth, to round up the reasons for me to invest is diversification. Yes, we are investors and we need ways or vehicles in which to put our money money that outpace inflation. And right now, cryptocurrency is on a path where it's outpacing inflation quite easily, with people making 100% on their investments. Although cryptocurrency has established itself as highly volatile, high movement, highly unpredictable, I think that the day and age will come when this is just a part of normal civilization. So why not diversify into an asset class which shows to be an important part of our future? And lastly, we'll talk about how do I buy Bitcoin. In Jamaica, let's face it, it's hard to buy anything when it comes to living in Jamaica. So it's no surprise that we are met with roadblocks when purchasing crypto. So let me talk about the places where I buy crypto, or as they call them in the crypto world, a crypto exchange. So I use Kraken. I have signed up to cex.io, and I also know of Coin Mama. So with Kraken, they charge almost everything in Euro or Great Britain, so you'd have to factor that into your calculation when it comes to buying crypto, selling crypto, or just doing any transactions. However, for some reason, since changing to the new Scotia card, to the MasterCard, not the Visa, I can't buy Bitcoin on Kraken. I can only buy Ethereum. So I joined the cex.io platform. However, I haven't made any transactions as of yet. But from what I am seeing, I can't use a card to make any transactions. I'd have to use a wire. But I have a workaround in making the wire transaction or the wire process easier. So I might do a video on that next week. Now, if you live in America or overseas, the only thing stopping you from buying crypto is you, because the amount of platforms that you guys have over there. You have Gemini, you have BlockFi, you have Coinbase, you have Cash App, you have Robinhood. Like, the list goes on. You can use, and plus the ones that I've mentioned, you can use those as well if you're overseas. So it's up to you what you want when you're overseas. But for Jamaicans, we are trapped to those three so far that I know of. If you have a US card, it makes things kind of easier for you also. So this is it. I think that that's all the data that a beginner would need to start their cryptocurrency journey. So far, I am loving this space. I am learning a lot from this new technology, and it's a thing of the future, and I want to be one of the first movers, even though I am 10 years late to the party. But if cryptocurrency is not for you and you love stocks, then you can just always tune in to Stock Market for Beginners Part 3. Just head on over and watch that playlist I have from Part 1 to 5, and then some additional clips also that you might want to watch. Head on over, like, share, and subscribe.